Bob, you occupy a very interesting literary niche, kids' books about fishing. How did you get into this? What was behind it? What was the need, and both internally and externally?
Well, how did I get into writing kids' picture books about fishing? It goes back to my dad took me fishing when I was about 4 years old. And I was excited about that, and I got hooked, so to speak, on fishing, and I've been passionate about the sport ever since then. We grew up about 2 blocks from the mouth of the Fox River in Lake Winnebago in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So I always had water available to me, and I just loved grabbing a fishing pole, going down to the shoreline along the river, and fishing for whatever was there, whether it was white bass or walleyes or whatever, just catching fish and having fun. Every time I went fishing, it seemed like an adventure, and that applies right up to today. When I go fishing, I never quite know what's going to happen. If I catch fish, that's a bonus, but I've always had a passion for fishing. So I thought about, what do I want to do with that passion? Midlife, I became a professional fisherman. I fished on the PWT, which is a professional walleye trail, and I spent some time on NAWA, the National Association of Walleye Anglers, and had a modicum of success there, but learned a lot about fishing. So that continued my passion for fishing. Now, when I'm into retirement, I thought, well, I need a project to keep going, something that keeps me busy and something I can make a difference with. And some people told me, well, you should write about something that you know about. Well, I thought, well, I coached hockey for 35 years, but I've been fishing for over 65 years, so the natural is write about fishing. In my coaching, I took several groups of kids from Mennonites up through Lawrence University, so I've always been working with kids, younger age, right up through high school and college. But there's a lot of books out there about how to fish. But I wanted to instill something, put a spark into young kids, really young kids, that might get them interested in fishing. I've had so much joy and passion for fishing, I wanted to pass that along. So that goes back to how I first got that bug, how it continued through my life, and how I'm continuing it today. One of my motivations for writing for the really young kids is trying to get them away from their iPhones and iPads and away from the technology and more into nature. Get outdoors, have an on Golden Pond minute of get outdoors, enjoy the outdoors, seek adventure. Whether in fishing is a sport you can do alone or you can do with family and friends. It can be contemplative, where you throw out a bobber and wait for a bite, or you can, like I did, get competitive and join some fishing tournaments. You learn a lot about fishing, you learn a lot about people, but just being around the water, that really satisfied a need in me to stay with the fishing community. My books have a background of being scientifically correct. I have a lot of knowledge I depart, but at the same time, I want them to be entertaining and whimsical for a child to read a book and get a giggle out of it and want to go fishing, not just learn about where the fish, his habitat, what he wants to eat, but and the reader and the child learn something together. But at the same time, I want it to be enjoyable and something that the kids look forward to getting out there and enjoying.
Parents, grandparents have special moments reading to their kids. That particular bond, you can exploit that in beautiful ways here.
Well, one of the things that I found when I start talking to people about the book, everybody's got some memory of either their mom or dad or grandpa taking them fishing when they were younger. The experience of just bonding with a relative, being out there, not really the catching fish, but the excitement of maybe catching a fish, being in the outdoors, enjoying the outdoors, being out in the environment. And really that's what I'm trying to convey in my books, that this is fun, this is joy. So why not really enjoy it and partake in it?
Authors have a voice. every book, every story has a voice. Was there a particular voice, a way you wanted to present this, present these books?
It's really kind of funny that the voice in the book, I have the fish telling the story. And many authors and editors said, well, I don't know if that's such a good idea. I don't know that it was my idea. I mean, there are a lot of books where the animals talk, but I thought it'd be unique for the fish to talk to the child. In the first book that I wrote, Walter the Wily Walleye, the fish challenges the child to try and catch him. He's wily, which means he's sneaky. He got a little worry, hides what he wants to eat before he can catch him. So it's the fish talking to the child, but giving solid information about how to go about trying to find him. The fish is talking about his life under the water, and then he's relating to what's going on above the water, the people are trying to catch him and what they're doing. He likes kids because the kids laugh and giggle when they're fishing. They have fun. And although some professional fishermen get deadly serious about the sport, where I'm at writing these books is to make it whimsical and fun for kids to really want to get out and enjoy it. The first one I wanted to write about was Walter, because having been a walleye fisherman, that's what I knew most about. Then I wanted to incorporate something about a fly-in trip to Canada. My second book, which is Fly-In to the Boonies. The second book is about a little boy and girl that take a trip with Dad and Grandpa. They fly into Canada, they cook s'mores, they do a shore lunch, they see moose and bears, and the little girl catches the fish in this one. So I wanted to expand and include little girls along with little boys with a story. And I've been to Canada with my dad, my sons, my grandsons, friends, family, and every time you go, it's an adventure. So in my over 20 trips on fly-in trips, each time was something new and unique to remember about the trip. We saw a moose, we saw a bear, we caught a big fish. It rained so hard that we got just drenched. There's always a story behind it. So I wanted to relate the accuracy of what's fun in taking an adventure of taking off in a plane and landing on the water. So that was the second one. The third one, which goes to print in December, we're back to Walter. It's Walter Under the Ice. So this is an ice fishing story. So now we've got some hard water and adventure of getting out and enjoying, instead of just sitting clammed up indoors, to get out and enjoy the outdoors, feel that brisk air, get out there, punch some holes in the ice and try and find some fish. And if it's a little slow fishing, build a snow fort. Take your ice skates along and ice skate, throw a football around, but just being out enjoying the outdoors. So this is a follow-up. Walter's still wily, but now he's under the ice. Another book that's in the works is Muskie, which is related to the Midwest. But if those take hold and we have interest in people reading them, I think then from there you expand out and do something about maybe bass, which is more universal. The people in Florida and Texas are just as crazy about bass fishing as Kevin Van Dam in Michigan and the people in the Midwest. So there's a whole series of books that I could relate to, but I wanted to start out with what I know the best, what I fish for the most, and what I feel the most passion for.
You shouldered this publishing burden all by yourself here. Talk a little bit about the task. What did you encounter going through this, trying to get a book in a not often visited niche, getting that out to the marketplace?
Well, I had written the first book, and after a couple of years of being out there trying to sell it to a publisher, and it was going nowhere. Nobody was picking up on it. They were telling me something I already knew. This is too regional. The people in Florida aren't going to buy your book. They don't know anything about walleye fishing, although they do fish, and I can relate to fishing, the experience of fishing. The major publishers were saying, this is too regional. So I had to make a decision. Do I let it die in the vine, or do I go ahead and pursue it? And I decided to pursue it and publish myself. So I made the investment. I formed a small publishing company. I found an illustrator. It was kind of unique how I found the illustrator. I had gotten several recommendations, and I talked to the people that I planned to have print the book for a recommendation. He said, well, I know this guy that has already got a couple books in print. Give him a call. So I looked up online his portfolio, and the first picture in his portfolio was the black and white ink drawing of a walleye. And I thought, karma, this is the guy that's got to illustrate my book. So I called him, we negotiated a deal, and I'm very happy that we did, because he did my first book. He's from Appleton. He's also a local person right down the street. I grew up in Oshkosh, and he's from Appleton. And we actually won a couple awards for the book, and one of the awards we won was for graphics and illustration. So when I did my third book, going back to the walleye book, he was more than happy to stay involved, because he already had the character down and the ideas, and we worked well on the first book. So I hired him to do the third book of Walter Under the Ice too, and I think it's going to be a really popular book. I thought a great place to place my book would be, I've taken so many trips up to Canada that when I crossed the border, when I come back, the first souvenir store that I always saw was called Border Bob's. So I reached out, I sent him an email explaining what my books are and see if he was interested. He said, well, it sounds interesting, I'll try it. So he put a couple cases of books in, and I was happy about that. So in the middle of the summer, I'm out in the middle of Lake Winnebago fishing with a buddy from Oshkosh. We're perch fishing, and my phone goes off, and he says, is this Bob? I said, yeah. He said, this is Bob from Border Bob's. That's a lot of Bobs. I said, you're right. He said, I'm out of books. Send me some more books. I'm not pushing them or promoting them. People are buying them. So in addition to looking for t-shirts and hats and a souvenir, they want a memory of the fishing trip they had, something they can take back to nieces and nephews and grandkids about their fishing experience. And Walter the Wily Walleye is the perfect book to bring back as a souvenir from the North. So sent him some additional books, and towards the end of the season, I connected with him online and said, I hope you had a great season. How did it go with my books? He said, you know, I sold more of your books than any other publisher that I carry, and I'm just almost depleted the inventory. Call me again in May, and we'll get set up for the coming summer. So you got to find those little locations. You just can't expect that you're going to be in every Barnes & Noble, because if your book doesn't sell in 30 days of Barnes & Noble, they send it back. And when you're with 100 other books, you don't get much face time. They don't face them. They don't promote them. You're just another one in the crowd. Whereas in a fishing store, a souvenir store, fishermen are looking for something that can connect with the youngsters. And a fishing book for little kids is ideal. So I'm finding those little nuggets, but it's you really have to prospect for those grains of gold in the sea of sand.
You mentioned you had an endorsement from Al Lindner. Al has been one of the great fishing educators. What did Al have to say about the books?
Well, it's kind of funny. I went up to a fishing workshop that In Fisherman puts on, and my wife and I were out to dinner one evening, and I saw Al. He was having dinner with another gentleman I knew that actually had worked for Freebell when they were sponsoring me on the PWT. And I didn't want to interrupt their supper, so I kind of waited till they were done. And I walked over there with a couple books, and I gave one to each, and I said, Al, here's some bedtime reading for you for the workshop the next day. The next morning, we get in there, and there's a couple hundred people there, and he gets up on stage, and in his introductory remarks, he holds up my book and said, you know, I just read this last night, and this is a fantastic book. And he went on to talk about how I was originally one of the people with the PWT circuit, and now I had come full circle, and now I'm writing books for the young kids. And he accents getting young people involved, and he's behind the high school fishing programs that are starting to populate. And so that was a tremendous endorsement to have Al Lindner say this was a cool book. People should look at this book.
We got the winter season. The holiday season is upon us, and after that, the fishing show season. What's your presence going to be like?
Well, one of the main shows that I look forward to is the Chicagoland Fishing, Travel, and Outdoor Show. And I will be featuring the new book that Walter, Under the Ice, which is going to print in December and should be ready for release in mid-January. So it'll be primed for the third week in January at the Chicagoland show. I'm also doing an introduction of that at a toy store, toy and bookstore in Oconomowoc in January. So the ice fishing season is upon us, and I look forward to being at the shows. In addition, if you can't get out to the shows, you can order the book online at boballenauthor.com. And we're going to have that online as a special purchase for people to get the book. And it'll also be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But if you buy it online, you can make a note in there that you want it signed, and I'll personalize it to whoever you want me to make it out to. So I do that at the shows, and you can't get that done on Amazon, but if you order online, I'm happy to personalize it and sign it for you.
Just warm, stay dry and cozy on water or the beach. Bring me a lunch of minnows, worms, grubs, perhaps a leech. I bite your bait, bob your bobber. I'll snatch my food, call me robber.